Welcome to the D Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the D Shift podcast, and Happy New Year, seeing as this is now 2024. To start off the year, I have an exceptional guest, and I want to introduce you to her because you are going to find that she has a wealth of knowledge. So I'd like to introduce you to Megan Bozzuto. She is the president of the International Association of Women and the chief marketing officer for the PDN organization. Megan has over 20 years experience in accounting, finance, and marketing, as well as being an entrepreneur. She also considers herself a global citizen as she has lived and worked in the United States, Shanghai, and Dubai, which is totally cool. And I would love to visit both of those places. So Megan, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited for this conversation.
I know I'm really, and like I say, brand new year, getting things started. And I know that you have a big passion for supporting women and women entrepreneurs, women professionals. How did that all come about?
You know, it's funny. I get this question a lot, right? Because I'm one of those people, I wake up every morning and I'm so excited to come to work because I love what I do, but it hasn't always been the case. And I did not start out my career saying, I'm here for women. I'm going to find a role where I can support and empower women in their own journeys. I started my career in accounting, working for technology companies. And I was very good at the numbers, at the analytical stuff, at diving in and asking questions, but I was miserable. I hated my job. Right. And so I felt like I was making progress and getting ahead, but there was no passion there.
Right.
In 2009, my first daughter was born, and that's when we moved to Shanghai. And I said, this is a good time for me to take a pause. The Shanghai was supposed to be a year and a half, and it turned into 5 years overseas total. So completely different story. But it was that time to like, okay, I'm going to be a mom. I'm going to reflect on my career. I'm going to figure out where I'm going. And that way, by the time we come back from China, I can figure out what's next for my career. At that time, my parents had opened a small business and I started doing their digital marketing. Digital marketing was a very new thing. It was kind of a learn as you go. There weren't a lot of programs for it. And then when we moved back from the US, I thought I can do this for other companies too. I don't have to go back to a corporate role. I can find small companies locally and do their digital marketing. Great. I ended up, through my network, I connected with the woman who was overseeing all of the marketing at the IAW organization at the time, and she brought me in as a consultant. And I was just freelancing, helping with some initiatives, and I found an organization where I believed so much in the mission, and I had never been in that. I always supported women. I was always very involved in women's networking groups, et cetera, but never that passion of, I could play a role in helping build this. I could play a role in actually helping run this from behind the scenes. I started asking, I ended up taking on more and more responsibility. And with that came if I'm delivering marketing products, I want to make sure that they're working, right? How do we measure the impact we're having? Are we seeing good ROI? Started asking to look at the finances, and I have an accounting background. So suddenly everyone's like, but you work in marketing. Why do you care? Right. And so I found myself in this role where I was well positioned to step in to lead the organization and really bring all my marketing experience with me, but have a really strong understanding of just how to run a business and how to do it successfully. And so one day there was an opportunity and I said, yes, I'll step into that. Right. It was at that time I had 3 kids, and it was a big shift to go from freelance work to full-time back to corporate. But I love the corporate space. I love having a team of people, developing a team of people. I did not love chasing my own clients. I did not love having to do all the invoicing, having to do all the follow-up. And so I have found myself in this space where I love seeing other women succeed. I love playing a role in the development and support. And I often say I've been through some crappy things in my career. I've been through I've worked for really large companies, small companies. And if my story and my experiences can help somebody else have an easier path forward, sign me up. I'm going to tell my story every day, and I'm going to support that journey because I believe that women, we're capable of so many things, and sometimes society tells us no. Sometimes our own heads are saying, "Oh no, maybe I'm not good enough," etc. And when we can surround each other with the support and that community, I see magical things happen, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and I thank you for that insight too, because so often we see on social media or we hear in a lot of women, especially female networking, women's networking organization, it's like move from corporate to entrepreneur, move from corporate to entrepreneur. That's not always the right movement for people. A lot of people, there being an entrepreneur is not a 9 to 5 job, neither necessarily is corporate. But you're right, the chasing the clients, the follow-up, somebody doesn't pay their invoice, now you got to go around and do that, have that conversation with people. It Entrepreneurship is not always the pinnacle
That
of success by
it's
any
not.
stretch
It's
of the
not.
imagination. Yeah. So I love, and I'm full disclosure, I am a member of the International Association of Women, and I have been interviewed by Megan. Megan is also she does the
Yes.
podcast for the
Yes.
IAW. So I really love the organization. I'm relatively new to it, so I'm just kind of getting in there and getting my feet wet. Talk a little bit about this whole idea of community for women entrepreneurs, professionals, those
Mhm.
who are maybe looking at making a career transition, or those that are going through life transitions like a divorce.
Yeah. So I will tell you, I've been a part of the IAW community and team for almost 7 years now. And I've always enjoyed networking. I've always enjoyed me. Actually, I say that. There were times in my life I hated networking. I hated the idea of walking into a room by myself with strangers and having to introduce myself. But I love meeting people and hearing other stories and experiences. That's why I loved living overseas, right? Because there's this idea of what can I learn from you? And I think stories connect us and help us to come together to solve big problems. But IAW and the idea of community for women. So I see so many challenges we face as women, no matter if you're doing your own business or you have a career, you have kids or don't have kids, or maybe want kids, or you're navigating big life transitions. And when we show up at work or show up at our job, whatever it is, whether you're running your business or in the professional space, you can't just block out what's going on around you, right? Life is still happening outside the doors of the office. And I think that in order for us to show up authentically and able to produce the best results, we have to be able to navigate that space of this is hard, right? There's things going on. Sometimes life's great outside the office, sometimes it's not. But the idea of having a community where you can show up and raise your hand and without judgment say, this is what I'm going through, it's really hard, who can help me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe I need a referral, maybe I need a book, maybe I need a coach, maybe I need, what do I need and who do I know in my network that can help with that? Now often we look to our local community, right? So when I have things, I go to the moms I know from school, I go to my church, I have fantastic neighbors, but a lot of people in my community are stay-at-home moms. So when I'm having challenges at work, they'll say, "Well, why are you working? You don't need to work. I don't work. Why?" I love working. I love I love being a mom. I'm a much better mom when I'm also working. I've learned that, right? And so it's the finding the people who are not going to tell you you're crazy. They're not going to say, "Oh, you can't do that," or they're not going to say question where you're trying to get to. They're going to show up and say, sounds good, I'm in, how do I support you?
Yeah.
And I have found that at IAW. So I show up in this interesting space because I lead the organization. So often when I show up, I do a lot of our programming. As you said, I host our podcast. I show up at our events and I contribute. But sometimes it's like, well, do I want to showcase my mess in front of the organization I'm running? Right.
Right.
I like to show up polished and professional and ready to go. But guess what? I just finalized my divorce. And like, as you know, for even if you're not getting divorced, like relationships are complicated. There's mess. And I'll never forget the day that I was hosting something and I said, you know what? I'm going to share this with the community. I was doing a live event and we were talking about challenges, and I said, just so you all know, like my life is not this perfect little picture you see in this box. I'm in the middle of a divorce. I've been separated a year and a half. There's a lot of mess. I have three small kids. And do you know the number of people who reached out to me one to one to
Yeah.
say, keep going. Like, we've got you. What do you need? I've been through it. And these are people I've never met before, right? They know of me through the IW community, but it's just that outreach of, I see you, I hear you. How can I support you?
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't come like my neighbors know I'm going through a divorce, but guess what? They also know my ex-husband really well. And
Sure.
it can be awkward of, well, what really happened, right? So just being able to show up authentically in that space when life is hard, but also when we have things to celebrate. I love when our members come in. Every Monday we do a session, and I ask, what did you accomplish last week, big or small? Let's celebrate that, because we don't give each other enough credit. We don't give ourselves enough credit for all those small wins. And sometimes it might just be that I got up and showered and was dressed before 9 a.m. to be on Zoom every morning. Like,
Right. Yeah.
sometimes. But having people that say, yeah, me too. You know what? Life's a little crazy right now, and well done.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's power in that.
I do too. And I think a lot of times, when I'm in my conversations with clients, what I hear when I say to people, what happened last week, or, typically they start listing all the things that didn't happen, what they didn't do right or what didn't go well. And then, then I have to ask the next question, well, what did go well? So I think naturally, especially as women, well, maybe not especially as women, because I don't know the internal thoughts of men, but, I think we're just naturally harder on ourselves than we need to be, and way more critical and judgmental of our achievements, and tend to
Yeah.
minimize what we've done. So
Oh,
let's
for
talk
sure.
let's talk
For
about
sure.
that ability to ask for help. What
Mm, mm.
what do you find? I mean, I know personally for me it's one of the hardest things I do. I mean, I try to do everything on my own, and that's not always healthy or effective.
No. And so I I often say I'll just do it myself, right? It's quicker, it's faster, it's easier. I'm the expert here. And there's been a few cases where I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I can't. And one of those was my husband had my now ex-husband, massive medical issue almost 5 years ago. Ended up in the hospital for a long time. He also was on a business trip when it happened, so he was clear across the country. And at that point, I very quickly was like, I can't do this alone. I can't. First of all, I have three small kids at home. So I knew I needed support there. I couldn't be in two places at once. But also, I went to the hospital, right? I flew to where he was and was in the hospital, but I said to the family, I can't do this alone, right?
Right.
I'm so overwhelmed right now, and I don't want to be alone. I need somebody else. I'm not a medical expert, and there's all these words being thrown around, and I am so overwhelmed. So somebody get here and be here with me. I don't want to be here alone. And typically I'm very like, I don't like to put other people out of their place, right? I don't want to say, my needs are so big. I need you to also give up time with your family or your job or this. I need you in this room with me. But at that point in time, I did. And I'm so glad I did, because I think emotionally I would have been even more of a wreck. But one thing I've realized recently is, from a professional capacity, what was happening is I was limiting my team from making progress, because everything was falling on me. So they were constantly waiting for me to do my actions before things could be executed. But I was also limiting the growth opportunities of others, because I wasn't giving them a chance to learn. I wasn't setting them up, right? And my way is not always the best. My way is not always perfect. And having the ability to say, here's the task, go research how to do it, come back to me with the results, or if you have questions. And it's been really good for my team, because it has empowered them to learn and grow skills and be more developed. And they're all becoming more confident, which
Yeah.
is fantastic.
Yeah.
Like,
I really like that perspective that when we do everything ourselves, if we do have a team, we are limiting their ability to grow
mhm,
and to, you know, it, I always, when I'm working with people who are leaders, I always say, who do you have that you can delegate this to when we're trying to offload some of their stuff? And when, when the leader says, well, there's absolutely nothing I can offload, then the problem is the leader. There's always ways to
Always something.
offload. Um,
Yeah.
but with full disclosure, I do realize as an entrepreneur that hiring somebody and bringing them in, even a part-time VA, that's a steep learning curve for
Mhm.
me. And I've actually experienced working with a couple of VAs, and I've kind of gone, nope, I'm just going to do it myself, because by the time I explain what I want done, I could have just done it. But
Mhm.
but there
Yeah.
comes a
When
tipping
I
point.
There does. And when I talk to entrepreneurs, it's interesting because often there's a budget issue, right?
Yeah,
There's a how much can I afford to do this? And so I suggest looking at all the different things that have to get done in your business and what are the things that you are good at and really enjoy doing versus the things that you put off and off and off because you just don't want to do it. So accounting is a big one, right? Nobody
yeah,
wants to do their own accounting. And that's something also better left to the expert, right?
definitely.
If you're not a tax expert, if you're not comfortable in that space, why not bring somebody in?
Yeah,
Marketing is another big one. Designing your website, optimizing your website, creating content, doing social media. I hear a lot of people who just they're so overwhelmed by it.
yeah,
That can you even if you offload a piece of it, right? You don't necessarily there's things I do now where I set something up and then I hand it off to my team to go implement. And that
yeah,
means I'm still involved in the process. It's still me. It's still, but where are there little pieces that you can segment off to bring in somebody who quite possibly they probably are more experienced, right? If
yeah,
it's a specific skill set. And from an entrepreneur standpoint, I struggled with this when I had my own business, right? It's, well, I don't want to give it up because I don't want to pay money for that because that's money out of my pocket. And
exactly.
I can do it myself, not a big deal.
Right.
But I found that's a ticket to burnout because then I'm overwhelming myself with all of the things. But I also was missing things. Like from an accounting standpoint, there were financial things I wasn't taking into consideration that from a tax perspective would have benefited me.
Right.
So
Right.
having that expert can help.
And that also applies for if you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I'm not an entrepreneur and I'm not in the workplace right now. If you're a mom taking care of kids, trying to maintain the home, trying to go get groceries, trying to do every 99,000 things in a day, right? That you can offload perhaps some of that stuff. Maybe some of it gets offloaded to older kids. Maybe they can help
Right.
out a little bit. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe you subscribe to a grocery delivery service or one of
That
those
is
prep
right.
things.
Right. I think we always look for the things in the business to
Yeah.
offload, but there's things inside the home that can be as well. And
Yeah.
post divorce, I got rid of my cleaning service and I told my kids every other weekend we are scrubbing the house, right? It's we're going to do this, but if it gets done, I'm going to take the money I was paying for the cleaner and we're going to go do something fun. We're going to go
Yeah.
celebrate it. And so they're like, "Oh, this is cool." Like it helps them better understand the financial changes that are going to happen post divorce. But also, it's like this house is all of our responsibility. It
Yeah.
doesn't fall just on mom to clean the house. You're all old enough to pick up your own stuff, to put your laundry away. And oh, by the way, here's how you clean a toilet. Important life skill. Like
It is.
yeah, and it's great they've gotten on board with it. And
Yeah.
I find my house stays cleaner now because my kids are part of the process.
Yeah.
And it's not like every other Saturday we're like having to go and clean up everything because they're doing a better job of maintaining because they take pride in, oh, I cleaned that the other day. I don't want to see it dirty. And
Exactly.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Great strategy. I know one other thing we wanted to touch on was really about the importance of women in whether you're talking about your community moms group or whether you're talking about something at your church or a volunteer organization or a professional organization, the importance of being proactive and reaching out to support other women. Can you talk a little bit about how that benefits the community, but also how it benefits you as an individual doing that support?
Yeah, it's funny because I get so much satisfaction out of supporting others. And the it's the well, I don't want to ask for help because I don't like I don't want to put somebody else out of their way or whatever. But I find if you're going through something and I can bring you dinner, or I can just take something off your plate, or if I get members who are like, oh, there's this thing on my website, it's not loading right, da 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 da. Well, I'll take a peek behind the scenes. I have that skill. And if I can spend 5 or 10 minutes doing something that is going to help somebody else, it makes me feel good. So when somebody says, no, I don't need help, I got it. Remember that you're giving me just as much satisfaction as you're going to get from just having somebody in your corner who's looking out for your stuff.
Right.
And can I answer every single request I get with super helpful support? No, I can't. It's I'd be busy all day just kind of tweaking people's websites and doing their social media. But I do what I can and I share resources. And it's that I also think when we show up for others in that space of how can I support you, it's that pay it forward mentality. Like, you know what? When my husband was, this is something pre-illness, I did not appreciate the benefit of having people in your community who show up when life is hard.
Yeah.
And then I had that happen, right? And now when we were in the hospital, somebody from my ex-husband's company showed up with a bag that had a water bottle, a blanket, snacks, granola bars, healthy stuff, a notepad with a pen. And now guess what? When I know people who are suddenly hospitalized for any surprise reason, guess what I show up with? The bag of love, right? The bag of these are the things. And this woman does that because she spent extended time in the hospital with her child. And do you know how cold it is when you're sleeping in a hospital chair? That cozy, warm blanket, like I still have that blanket up on my bed because it's that somebody cared enough to say, I've been there. I feel you. Here are some things that are going to bring you comfort in a time that's really uncomfortable.
Right.
And so it's that pay it forward thing. And I think that there's so many crappy things going on in the world. Like it's scary. And as we enter in this space, right, we're heading, it's a new year. And just think about the impact you can have on the life of one person or a family or a community by small things. And often when I'm feeling down about myself and I'm like, oh, life is hard and there's so much, that glimmer of I'm paying it forward, I'm helping somebody else, and it helps from a mindset perspective.
And there's actually a lot of research about how volunteerism and supporting others and even giving somebody a compliment actually boosts your own dopamine and serotonin levels, right? So you feel better.
You do.
You know,
I will add, when I was an entrepreneur, I volunteered with multiple organizations like the PTO, no professional organizations. It was all very personal. Guess where all of my clients came from?
Yeah.
All of those personal, because you connect over authenticity, you connect over real life things, and suddenly, oh, well, I know someone who needs your services.
Right.
And so there's that added benefit of when you show up in that space and show who you are as a person and give back to the community, it comes back.
And you know what? It really does. And that goes for professional networking events too. You know, when I go into a breakout room in a professional networking event, now that we do them almost all on Zoom anyhow, and you know, the first thing somebody starts trying to do is sell me something, I'm just clicked off. It's like, okay, go ahead, you know, do your little spiel and then you know, where if somebody starts with, this is what I do, how could I support you given this is my area of expertise? That's a whole different conversation.
It's a totally different experience.
And a whole different feeling when you think.
I always say start with values. Start with what you can do for somebody else. Let the sell come organically when it's the right time. Yeah. But don't start with a sales pitch because you're automatically just going to turn that person off.
Yeah, it's just like, ooh, it gives you those nasty feelings. Yeah. Megan, we have covered just a ton of information. I mean, we've really covered a whole gamut here of things that we can focus on. What is kind of a golden nugget of wisdom that you would like to impart as your last comment here today?
Oh, there's so many, but I think when you show up in community, when you show up at work, no matter where you're showing up, remember to give other people grace. Remember that you're constantly making an impression. And as you relying on your community, show up in that space where you can be a resource, but don't forget to remember that other people are going through hard things too, and just give people grace and be understanding and kind, and that will serve you so well into the future in terms of having the people around you, because that's what we want, right? Is the people around us who, when life is hard, you can raise your hand and say, hey, life is lifey, I need some help, right? Like
Yeah.
it's and so just show up with a kind heart and do your best to support and serve others, and you'll see it come full circle when you need it.
Yeah, I think that's a great message to start out every day, and definitely to start out, our first podcast of the new year. So thank you
Love
so
it.
much for that. If people want to find out more about yourself or the IAW, what's the best way to
Yep.
reach out to connect?
So our website at IAW is iawomen.com. And if you want to connect with me personally, you can do that through the IAW community if you're a member, or I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me. I believe it's Meg Boz is my LinkedIn handle, but Megan Bozzuto will find me.
Okay. Well, wonderful, Megan. Thank you. And I encourage everybody to reach out. You can follow IAW. You don't have to be a member to follow their posts and all kinds of stuff. Lots of great resources and tips and strategies for people, even if you're not interested in becoming a member. But I'm going to tell you, membership is definitely something to consider if you are looking for getting involved in that network of caring and compassionate women. So, Megan, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Mardi.
And I want to thank everybody for listening in on this episode of The D Shift. And don't forget to listen in again next Tuesday. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.